Tonight, we take a look at the top 10 most intense storms the world has ever seen. We get to see the 1959 West Pacific typhoon season, and you'll get to talk to the team yet again tonight in our community hour after the event. You can also vote on the viewers' top 10 on the website, force13.com/HW2017.html. Yes, after the shenanigans of yesterday, hopefully today promises some more. As noted, we're going to have some interesting features coming up. We're also going to be talking about what happened this year in the storm summaries from March to May. Any guesses on what we might cover in that one? I think you might have one or two. Of course, after we wrap up the first part, all the recorded features here, we will be going live to take your questions and to discuss just general things. We couldn't stop the conversation last night, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to tide us over this evening as well. We're all for interactivity, so make sure you get involved if you wish. And of course, as mentioned, if you still haven't yet voted for your favourite storms, you can do so on the website, though you may want to watch all of the top 10s first before you make your decision. Don't forget the voting on there closes on Friday night at midnight UTC coming into Saturday morning, and the top 10 from the viewers will be revealed on Saturday night. So far there have been over 1,050 votes on that, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more as well. Well, without further ado, let's go straight to the top 10 of Force 13's analysis, at least, of the top 10 most intense storms in the world. We begin with Hurricane Wilma, which began life just south of Jamaica in October 2005, becoming a tropical storm and being notable for being one of the most rapidly intensifying storms in the Atlantic or anywhere really, becoming a Category 5 on October 20th or the 19th, and then gradually weakening, still a Category 4 by the time it reached the Yucatan Peninsula, passing over Cozumel and affecting Cancun, and then moving off towards the north to the northeast, over Florida as a Category 3, out to sea, became one of the fastest travelling hurricanes then, and turned post-tropical near Nova Scotia. Whew, how about that? Well, here's the satellite imagery of the storm. You can see, just a minute, wait for it, for that intensification phase, there it goes, and it blows up marvellously, I suppose, and reached wind speeds, we assume, near 200 miles an hour, not quite, but we are assessing Wilma's lowest pressure to be 878 because the recon may not have found the very centre of the storm because it was such a very tight eye area and eye wall around Wilma's eye. It was unbelievable, and obviously the pressure fluctuations can vary a lot. You can see how the storm struggled with its eye after its first landfall, and then it moved towards Florida. Its eye came out properly again, and it managed to strengthen back to Category 3, became much larger, and then got completely swept away as it moved out over the North Atlantic. Some fantastic imagery of this storm. There's one. How about that? Just the tiny pinhole eye swiveling round there, and then it becoming that second eye there over the island of Cozumel, and then over the Yucatan Peninsula. And then it really struggled, but then came back again, and then moved off towards the northeast. Of course, a unbelievable storm of that unbelievable season, and there is another fantastic image here of the storm impacting Cozumel. Here's some radar imagery of the storm impacting Florida. It was making landfall on the 24th of October. Here's, in a minute, another radar view here, a close-up radar view of the southern part of Florida. And this, amongst other places, was where Wilma caused loads of damage, into the tens of billions, and no surprise if we see this storm appearing again later on in the week in the costliest part of the top 10s. And there it is, moving away. There's an image from the International Space Station whilst it was near its peak, and there's another shot from a little bit further away. And the next shot will be what it looked like on the ground. I believe that picture is in the Florida Keys. You can see the flooding that was occurring, and all across southern Florida, flooding was one of the biggest issues, along with those high winds and collapsing buildings there as well. The statistics: 87 fatalities, 29.4 billion in damages, the intensity score right up to 18, and the Force 13 score we give it is 32. And from the far east and west Pacific came Typhoon Angela in October 1995, unassuming at first, traversing through the Micronesian islands as a tropical depression, and eventually, somewhere in a few more days, it would become a tropical storm. This storm was actually captured by one of the space shuttles, we'll take a look at that later, becoming a tropical storm south of Guam, continuing generally towards the Philippines, into the Philippine Sea, becoming a Category 1 typhoon, slowing down a little bit around that point, and then began to accelerate forward again on October 30th, Category 2 by this point, and then continuing ever closer, strengthening more quickly, Category 5, as it neared the Philippines, passing over then some parts of Luzon and also the island of Catanduanes, and then moving into the South China Sea still as a Category 4, really strong through those islands, and then weakening substantially before reaching the Gulf of Tonkin. As it progressed, you can see that stalling phase there, and then it moved on the intensifying phase, little curve towards the west, through the Philippines, and then out into the South China Sea. Here's some images of it near its peak, some visible imagery here. A close-up of a very well-defined eye, and here's an infrared view at the time as well, and that was an early view from the space shuttle of the storm developing. That was early on when it was a Category 1 or 2. That's just after its peak approaching the Philippines, still a Category 5 in that image. This storm killed 1,200 people and caused $315 million in damages, a very bad storm for the area. Its Force 13 score is 38. It destroyed many thousands of buildings as well. Another West Pacific storm that started well out to the east was Typhoon Rita of 1978. Somewhat late in the season, in October, taking an almost straight line track towards the Philippines and gradually developing along the way, and became a Category 5 storm for quite a long time. Take a look at this. Just as it passed Guam, it became a Category 5 and kept that status for 5 degrees west, 10 degrees west, going on 15 there, getting towards 20, yes, 20, and becoming Category 4, weakening as it moved into Luzon and then on into the South China Sea, down to tropical storm on the other side. It really did a number on the system, and then into Vietnam, just about dying there as it reached the southern part of the country. Here's how it looked in another format, and you can see how the storm developed. We think it reached a peak of 878 millibars, that's what the officials say as well. At least the Joint Typhoon Warning Center said that, and a peak wind speed of at least 180 miles an hour. And there it is, dying on the other side of the Philippines again. Here's some images of the storm taken out of the Joint Typhoon Warning Center's report, and you can see how the storm looked in those images. You don't get the best picture with the black and white. And also here's some new images about to appear, 3-hourly timestamps of how the storm progressed on the day leading up to its peak intensity on October 25th, I believe. Overall, the storm killed 724 and caused $138 million in damages. In real terms, it damaged over 240,000 buildings and destroyed 50,000. That's the actual cost of the storm, in my opinion. The Force 13 score overall makes it 32 on our index. Now we have Typhoon Ida of September 1958, also known as the Kanagawa Typhoon, intensifying rapidly as it moved away from the Mariana Islands out into the open western Pacific, becoming a Category 5 storm and reaching its minimum pressure of approximately 877 millibars, before moving off towards Japan, swiping the Tokyo area and moving off towards Hokkaido, where it dissipated. Here's another view of its track and what our intensities are in real time there yet again, and we expect that Ida's top wind speed was around 205 miles per hour. It's certainly feasible, and there it is, hugging the coast of Japan and then moving away. Here is an image of it taken from one of the Lockheed U-2 planes at very high altitude. There's another and one other as well. These are pretty much the only visible pictures of the storm that do exist, and one or two pictures of the damage that it caused as well. Looks like a badly damaged building there, one of many. 1,200 were killed in this storm. The cost, only 50 million recorded, probably a lot more than that. Force 13 score gives it 32. Now we move on to Typhoon June, a late season storm near the end of the season in November. Mid-November, starting life near Satawal, part of the Micronesian islands, as a depression, then intensifying, and then as it moved towards the north, it reached its massive wind speed and pressure, peaking with a minimum pressure of around 875 millibars, and then moved off towards the north, gradually weakening, and then moving just past the Ogasawara Islands of Japan and off well out at sea. So it was a pretty harmless storm in all truth, but we're here to find out just how strong this storm was. By Force 13's reckoning, 875 millibars and a wind speed well above 185. And there it is moving out to sea, and eventually it wound up in the eastern part of Russia. There's an image of the storm, a visible image. You can just about make out the eye. It's very difficult to see how strong the storm is on these images. And of course, they may not necessarily have been taken when the storm was at its peak. Such was the case with satellites back then. No fatalities, no damages. Intensity score yields 14, and Force 13's total score only 14 as well, because of no damages or fatalities. And we'll be taking a look at the top 5 shortly as well, but don't forget, if you want to vote on the viewers' top 10 out on Saturday, visit the Force 13 website. force13.com/hw2017.html is where to vote. But now we're going to take a little intermission from the top 10. We'll be back with that shortly, and we're going to go back in time again and take a look at the full season animation for the Western Pacific back in quite a remarkable year for intense storms, 1959. Here it is. Here come a few storms that some people may not expect, and that's because we think they've been gravely underestimated. Typhoon Gay of November 1992 formed well to the east in the western Pacific and enjoyed its time near the Marshall Islands, becoming a Category 1 typhoon, intensifying further, reaching its peak intensity way out to the east before reaching the Mariana Islands. It eventually struck Guam, made landfall there actually as a Category 2. There it is, it's about to impact there. Category 2 landfall and a rather dry storm apparently, according to people on the ground. And then it continued into the Philippine Sea, intensified again, reached a secondary peak intensity at Category 4, and then began weakening and actually weakened very quickly after that, after it lost its Category 3 status. There it is off towards the north, moving slowly towards the Japanese islands, never actually made it. Why do we think that Typhoon Gay is in the top 10 for the most intense storms? Well, you may be swayed by the pictures. By our estimations and thorough analyses, Force 13's estimate puts it at 875 millibars. Other people on the team, by the way, think lower, with a peak intensity in terms of wind speed of around 205 miles per hour. If these images don't quite suit your eyes, then maybe the next ones will. Here's another view of how the storm progressed throughout its life. Certainly a very strong storm by anyone's standards. There it is peaking the first time, there it is, and then weakening, passing over Guam somewhere there, and reaching its second peak. The eye pops out again. There it goes, stalling, weakening, probably over cold waters there. Well, take a look at this infrared image if you're still not convinced. There it is, some very strong cloud tops around the eye there, and a very warm eye in the middle as well. Certainly looks rather convincing, maybe on a par with Haiyan. 1 fatality, no known damages. Its intensity score is 17, and Force 13 score is a total of 21. Well, now it's Typhoon Nora of October 1973, started life not too far from Yap, and then moved off towards the west, heading off towards the north eventually after an abrupt turn, another abrupt turn towards the west, and then became Category 5, rapid intensification, peaking with a pressure of at least 877 millibars. But here's an interesting thing to note: the plane that recorded that pressure was nowhere near the center of the storm apparently, so it could well have been a much lower pressure. Who knows how low it may have been. Force 13 is putting it at 874 millibars, with a peak wind speed of at least 185 miles per hour. It affected the Philippines as a Category 3 storm. It was weakening at that time, became a Category 1 into the South China Sea, and then impacted China as a tropical storm, weakening rapidly at that point, and then died. There's a visible image of the storm near its peak. There's another image there. And the next one is probably the most descriptive of the images. There it is, somewhat near its peak intensity. Not sure exactly when that picture was taken. 68 fatalities in all, $5.7 million in damages. Its intensity score is 16, and our score 22, but that is possibly low due to lack of data. Here's another one that you might not expect. Typhoon Mike. As it moved towards the west through the Micronesian Islands of November, it looked rather unassuming of 1990, until it became rather close to Palau. There it is, intensifying significantly, Category 4 just north of Palau, and then became a Category 5 and reached its peak intensity. A very intense storm, this one. The infrared imagery would probably confirm that. Passed through the Philippines anyway as a Category 4, and then moved out into the South China Sea. Category 2 still re-intensifying and weakening once more, and then eventually arriving on Hainan Island, the western coast. It clipped as a tropical storm and just about made it into Vietnam as a measly tropical depression. Here it is progressing towards the west. We think this storm peaked with a pressure also of 874 millibars. Some of our members think it may have been as low as 863. Well, that's an interesting point to discuss. Here's another loop of the storm progressing towards the west there. The pinhole eye at that point moving into the Philippines, and then of course it struggled beyond that point to redevelop that eye that it had, and hardly any convection was left by the time it reached China. 754 fatalities, $389 million in damages. In real terms, this storm damaged an immense 600,000 buildings and destroyed 200,000. Those numbers are just less than what was caused by Typhoon Haiyan. Force 13's 2016 reanalysis of Hurricane Patricia actually found an even lower pressure than what the National Hurricane Center thought. We're putting it at 871 millibars as it peaked as a Category 5 storm and moved into Mexico, weakening slightly before its final landfall, of course. Here's the storm as it developed, and pretty sure everyone still remembers this one, and was the strongest storm ever recorded in the Eastern Pacific region. There it is, reaching its peak wind speed. Also, the report in 2016 indicated a high wind speed of 208 miles per hour. Here's another view, the infrared view, look of just how the storm managed to develop so quickly. There it is. And the National Hurricane Center, if you recall, were rather slow to keep up with the storm's intensity until it was actually peaking and then moved into Mexico. Remarkably, the damages were as light as they were, though it still did cause a lot of damage in the area around the landfall zone. But remarkable that this storm could have caused so much more damage that it did. It's slightly owing to pretty much its fairly small size and obviously the somewhat lacking in terms of population centres in where the storm was making landfall. Look at this view from a NOAA plane as they were intercepting the eye of Hurricane Patricia whilst it was near its peak intensity. Imagine being up there. That was when they caught the 879 millibar reading initially, and here's a view from the International Space Station as the storm was near its peak. I'm guessing this was from October 23rd, which was its peak day. Here's an animation of the storm making landfall, and Olaf on the left hand side. There's a high resolution infrared image there as well, and a high resolution visible here too. On the ground it looked like this. This was the damage near the epicenter of Patricia's landfall, which it did so as a strong Category 4 with at least 150 mile/hour winds. And there's another view from high above from the International Space Station. A visible loop of the storm whilst it made landfall, and the eye was dying by that point, wasn't it? Only 12 were killed, $283 million in damages. Its intensity score is 18, and Force 13 score gives it 32. However, the strongest storm, the most intense storm, is still Typhoon Tip. It stalled for a while as a tropical depression just southeast of Chuuk and then got going in early October 1979. Still wanted to stall a little bit over the island too, and then shoot it off towards the northwest, passing very close to Guam and then becoming the historic Category 5 peak that it did reach. An October 2017 report from Force 13 suggests that the storm may have been even more intense than 870 millibars, and we're going, get this, with 868 on this particular production, pending a final analysis. There was the storm moving towards the northwest, we'll explain that shortly, and then moving off towards Japan, where it did cause some amounts of damage as it brushed through there as a Category 1 typhoon, made landfall shooting through as it was turning post-tropical. Here's some imagery of the storm. I'm sure you're all familiar with what Tip actually looked like and how really huge it was, the largest storm the world has ever seen, peaking with winds of somewhere in the 190s miles per hour, and the pressure we're putting out right now of 868 millibars. Why? Well, it's interesting because the main reason, the recon plane had a little gap in its coverage. After the 870 millibar reading, the satellite appearance of the storm actually improved, and we've extrapolated that to suggest that the storm peaked with a pressure between 865 and 870 millibars, most likely lower than 870 to some degree. By which degree, we don't really know. Here's some more views of Typhoon Tip as it was moving through, and it will certainly be one of the most intense storms ever recorded, and still stands to be the most intense storm ever recorded by an actual observing instrument. And here's another look at the scale of the storm depicted on the pressure charts, and this is Force 13's chart showing the recon fixes and the SATOPS, Force 13's satellite operations, determining an estimated intensity. 111 fatalities in total, $400 million in damages, a Force 13 score of 29. Well, that's all from the second Top 10 series. You've just seen what Force 13's analysis suggests are the top 10 most intense storms ever noted, recorded or estimated. And Tip's still a remarkable storm, isn't it? Yesterday, if you missed it, we had the top 10 deadliest storms, and tomorrow we're covering the third of our 6 top 10s features, the costliest. The top 10 costliest storms is up tomorrow. Next up, we're going to be talking about the storm summaries for the period, the second of 4, between March and May 2017. Here it is. And you join us on part 2 of Force 13's Cyclone Summaries, taking you through everything that happened throughout the last 12 months in the world of storms. Today, in this episode, we're looking at what happened from March through the end of May. And quite a bit actually happened there, depending who you ask. Certainly a few interesting things happened. I'm Nathan Foy. I'm joined by several people in the room right now. I'm joined by Gabe, Craig, Marcel, and Daniel.
Hello.
Yes. Now, Daniel, what were you doing back in March?
Back in March this year?
Yes.
I honestly can't really remember very well.
Oh,
March doesn't stick out as a really prominent month.
Doesn't stick out like a sore thumb to you now. Alright then, well, let's take a look at our first storm that actually happened in that time. You can tell we're really taking this seriously, can't you? Here is the first one, Cyclone Fernando, which not many people remember because it was really insignificant. It happened back in, what was it, early March? March the 8th through to the 15th, became a tropical storm on 2 separate occasions. It wasn't particularly threatening to the Mascarene Islands. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, was it? There it was. It looked awful the whole time, really.
Yeah, it did. It just
that's how it looked at peak. Right? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure
even warranting a response. Hodson, what about you?
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, not much to say on that, eh?
No.
Alright. Well, let's move on to the next one that formed in the Southern Hemisphere. We're going to go by basin. And then it was 12S, which looked like this. Cyclone Caleb. I'm sure people remember that one.
Oh, yes.
A rather weak cyclone out there in the Australian region, but it did survive for quite a bit. That's the chart, and there is a track of Cyclone Caleb, tropical storm intensity, and survived quite a bit after that. Its track is really short considering how long it lasted.
If I'm not mistaken, actually at the beginning of March we had Anawa, didn't we?
Well, we'll get onto that. Where is Inawa? I must have skipped past it.
Yes, you did. That's why you just jumped straight to Fernando.
We did. Inawa
Yes,
came at the very first. I know why, because it's labelled improperly on my machine. So let's take a look at what Inawa did, because it did do quite a lot. I mean, it certainly gave us hope for the year. When you saw this, Craig, Cat 5 or not? Now, initially, this was given 150 miles an hour by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Force 13 initially went with 160 miles an hour Category 5, but later revised it downwards to 155. So this is a potential area of contention, and I don't know if any of you have thoughts on that.
Yes. Looking at the storm itself, it actually did look pretty good. The only thing that I'm pretty sure that you mentioned some time ago was that the cloud tops were slightly weren't high enough.
Didn't sustain themselves for long enough.
No, but it did look. To me, it did look pretty good. I think it was a Category 5.
Interesting. Here's a progression of the storm.
By a very small margin, granted, but still.
Here's a progression of the storm. Marcel, do you think it was a Category 5 or not?
And
And there was the eye
think
coming
it was
out.
155.
You think it was 155 along with Force 13's analysis?
Yes.
There's a picture from one of Force 13's storm updates back at the time. That's when it was making landfall. We initially had it down as a Category 4. At that point, we were predicting a Category 5 landfall according to that forecast there on our fantastic videos with the new format when it first came out. Now there's another image just before making landfall. Another potentially convincing image there.
Yes. Actually, I think that may or may not have been at least. I think it may have been just 157. Just me. Maybe. It's hard to tell right now, but it might have been. You never know.
Daniel? Oh. We're still struggling with Craig. It's probably my fault for showing the screen share. Marcel?
Central Dance Uppercast was a bit
Craig.
rapping called the center. I think it would be 160, 165.
Interesting. Hodson, how about you?
I'm afraid I've got nothing to say on again.
Yes.
I need to start paying attention.
Though you must.
Yes.
Though, what do you all think about this loop that it did whilst it was making landfall? You remember that?
See this.
I do. I remember that.
That's interesting.
Certainly is.
It's I have to say that's a very interesting feature.
A very loopy storm.
Yeah. It was rather. I think it killed over 100 people, Typhoon Nora, if I'm not mistaken.
It did. It killed over. I think it was. Oh, it was something. It was like it was more than 120, if I'm not mistaken. It was easily over 120.
All right, Marcel.
What?
Any more thoughts from you?
Oh no, not where I want to go.
A wobble.
All right then. Let's go on to our next major feature, and it looks like this. Anyone have an idea what this is?
Oh god.
Daniel?
I have no idea.
Hold on a minute. Hold on, wait. Daniel is our resident novice of storms.
Here we go, the novice.
Yep. So let's see how long it takes for him to get the right answer. What is it, Daniel?
I think by the time I'll have guessed what it is, everyone will have grown a beard.
Really?
I knew what it is by the time I looked at it,
picture.
but I just
Could you give me a clue, maybe?
This year?
It's not funny, I honestly...
Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's not Haiyan.
It's not Haiyan, no.
No, but it's spinning in a different way.
This is a little taster, folks, for Guess the Storm happening later on in Hurricane Week.
What was that?
David is making landfall, a Category 3 landfall in Australia earlier this year, Daniel.
I can't remember. The only ones I remember are Nathan and Alwyn or whatever.
Well, that was in 2015.
Yeah.
You got a good memory then. Well, I mean, a lot of people will be embarrassed for you, Hodson, including half of Australia. This was Cyclone Debbie, which made landfall in late March 2017, and it was a really big storm. A lot of interest around it, and indeed Force 13 went live, I think, for over 6 hours on this storm, including showing a pass of the International Space Station. Just some images here from Force 13 videos, a radar scope there. I'm not sure what other images are about to appear, but that is coming in on the radar. A few charts. There was one of the Bureau of Meteorology's maps. What intensity did it make landfall at on the Australian scale? Was that a Category 4? Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was too.
There it was. It became a 4 at that point, 10 p.m, just before it made landfall on the morning local time of March 28, and it was a really significant storm, and it kept people guessing all the way to the end as well, probably because of the Himawari satellite. Here's an image of what it looked like on the radar moving in. I make that point because when the satellites are, when you can look at it in near real time, it always gives you, not always, but you can often get a false impression of what's going on when you base it upon what's been going on the last few minutes on the satellite.
Yes.
But there it was when it made landfall, the beast of a storm, and that was the biggest storm for any land area in the southern hemisphere in the last 12 months, I think.
Sorry, say again?
No, I was just remarking it was one of the biggest storms to make landfall.
Oh yeah, it was. It was also one
months.
of the. It was also one of the costliest storms to impact Australia. Almost over $1 billion. Not almost. It was over $1 billion. I think it was nearing 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Quite a bit. Then we have this mess. Trying to change the subject. This was Cyclone 14P, and what a mess that was. It was trekking around just east of Tonga there and became very brief. So brief you can barely see it. Tropical storm. Just before the 6th of April. And then moved out as an extratropical storm later on.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That
Terrible, isn't it?
I know. So short.
So that was in early April. Another one that it was in early April. You know what's coming next. It's a little bit of this. Ernie. Number 13. April the 5th to the 10th. And people have got plenty of views on that. How in the world did the Joint Typhoon Warning Center and others not see this?
I know, right?
They still don't think it's a Category 5. It's got to be.
It has to be. I'm a little, just to be honest, I'd expect them to be able to see something like that. I
just don't understand their critique at all. The infrared imagery was there along to go with it and such. Craig, do you have any thoughts on that?
Cat 5.
Cat 5. Can you remember what it looked like on the infrared imagery? Because I don't have that with me. But it blew up very quickly and it weakened very quickly as well, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Went from Category 5 down to Category 2 in the space of 12 hours. It's as if it was making landfall, only it wasn't. Daniel, what do you think of Ernie?
Ernie.
Ernie, yes.
Was that the one that was just on the screen?
Yes. The one that looked pretty.
It looks a bit like a snake.
Just a little bit, the track, yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, the track.
It's near Australia and
Oh, yes.
lots of snakes in Australia.
There certainly were. Okay, now moving on to another one. This is another one that had a pretty big landfall. No, we're not looking at that. We're looking at this. Cyclone 16P, which was I forget the name.
I think that's Cook.
Cyclone Cook.
And certainly they Cook at the storm. I'm sorry, that is just dreadful.
The storm moved through Vanuatu, and then made a Category 2 landfall on New Caledonia. Weakened really rapidly after its landfall, though.
Yes.
And then it went out towards the southeast and moved away. How much damage did that one cause? I don't remember.
Quite a bit.
It made a Cat 2 landfall.
There's an image of it at peak. What was that, Craig?
I'm trying to find what its landfall intensity was. I think it was
Cat 2. Cat 1 or 2,
Category 2
one.
on our
Category
records,
2.
at least.
Category 2. It was a Cat 2.
Don't forget that our records may differ slightly from other records. And then, rather briefly, a storm that people might forget, quite a few that people will probably forget. Francis. No, that's the wrong one. Francis again. There it is. That was a picture of Francis during one 413 storm updates developing an eye. It was a brief Category 1.
It was brief. Yes, it was. It didn't. All I know
Didn't
is that it
sustain
was
it.
Category 1, then storm, and then it was almost dead. Not much to say
Pretty
about
much.
this storm.
One day there was a storm and it was named Francis. Next day it was dead.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And he also had Donna. That's Donna there.
Oh god.
It's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
1960s storm, but there it is.
Kebab.
Yes, that was an early image of Donna. I actually don't have any others on hand. That was a pretty strong one.
Category 4, right? Wasn't
Late
it?
in the season, we have it down as high-end Category 3. Very close margins. It just didn't
But I think
quite get
for
its eye consolidated well enough.
Officially, it was a Category 4,
So they say.
wasn't it? So they say.
I think it was 100. Was it 130? 140? I think it was 140.
If it was 140, that would be.
No, 130.
Okay. I was about to say if it was 100, if it can go 40.
I'm even questioning where the hell they got that from.
Oh, and we forgot one as well in the Southern Hemisphere, just before we finish up. It's Blanche. Back in March 4th to the 6th, it became a tropical storm just off the top end, Tiwi Island, I believe it is, and then moved to the southwest towards Kimberley, the Kimberley
Yes.
region. And then it moved out as a remnant low. Some people thought it would regenerate. Do you remember that, Craig?
Yes.
And then it didn't.
Yeah, it was like it's gonna regenerate, and then it just like Francis, it just died.
Yes.
I'm gonna regenerate. No, straight up dead.
Yes, exactly.
It's like I'm gonna regenerate. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do after that?
Daniel, what do you think of a name like Blanche?
And pretty funny.
Okay.
Oh,
Marcel, any
Everything
thoughts?
famous.
No, never mind.
Never mind. Marcel, any thoughts?
That's it.
No.
Still here.
Clearly not.
When
Yes.
I thought Blanche, I thought Avalanche.
Ah,
Oh my.
Avalanche.
If
Avalanche.
Daniel?
Jesus Christ.
yeah, if you've watched Coronation Street,
Oh,
you'll
no.
know who Blanche is.
Okay.
Oh my god, not that.
Do explain for those who don't know.
Well, she's an old lady in it, and yeah,
How did I know you'd
very,
say that?
very, very opinionated.
Ah, I see.
Like you are, Hodgson.
Shush.
Okay, well, now let's move to the Northern Hemisphere, and now we have... I've got a reputation for this one. Tropical Storm Arlene.
Oh.
People liked my commentary, apparently, when I first made the video on Tropical Storm Arlene, saying it was... what did I say? Something about it... It broke all the rules, of course.
Oh yeah, it did.
And
follow
since
the rules.
Arlene,
It formed an 18 degrees
Since Arlene, we
Celsius.
realised that 26 Celsius, as it's written in all of the science books, is complete baloney for the threshold for tropical cyclone development. Funny enough,
It's the same with hurricanes.
I was reading a study recently in the West Pacific that found that around 2% of all West Pacific storms form with less than 26 Celsius waters too. 1% of those at 24 Celsius. How about that?
Wow.
No, and the rest is just
So, Arlene, what did you guys think? Honestly, did anyone actually predict Arlene?
blinking you miss it because literally. It was
Over
invading
time, it looked. Oh wait a minute. Hold on a second. Over time, it looked like it was gonna dissipate and not really do much of anything, but it just trawled around the Atlantic for a little while, and I bet caught all of us off guard a little bit.
There's
Thankfully, it
some pictures
didn't
of it
impact.
developing. And this is when it happened, pretty much.
I mean, on a zoomed out photo, you would literally blink and you miss it.
Yes.
And there it was after it happened. All
Jesus
gone.
Christ. It's a naked storm in the Atlantic.
There it was.
Craig, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
Now. No more,
Alright.
please. Not you as well, Daniel. Okay, so that was the end of Arlene. Let's go on to something else. There was this little feature on April 22nd. Craig, does it look better than Colin?
Does it have a center?
No.
Then it's not Colin.
Still looks better than Colin. Ooh, we hate the Colin jokes. There it was the day after. Looked a bit better, I have to say.
It looks like that's got a center, so I'm going to say better than Colin.
You think so? Better than Philippe? Hang on to that one later. That one was on April 23rd. Also another funny feature on April 22nd that I noticed was this. What do you think of that?
What?
This little feature near the Galapagos Islands.
It's a
Oh, that.
I just thought that looked really funny.
It does.
April 22nd, but I do remember looking at the ASCAP pass around then, and I'm afraid it didn't show anything of the sort. Sorry, viewers. We don't have a new
They got
Tropical
excited.
Storm.
They got excited there for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I did.
They're like, oh,
Please do
Certainly.
not make that noise again. Please
It's
don't.
True.
Please don't.
sorry.
Daniel, what do you think of that little thing there?
It's insignificant.
Right, just as insignificant as Tropical Depression 1E of this year as well, because I've not even got a picture of it. It's so insignificant. Craig, any
It's just
thoughts?
like a dot.
One E.
Yes.
Was that even a thing?
Yes.
Jesus.
Wasn't it? Oh, that was Adrian. I'm sorry.
Adrian.
I don't have any picture of Adrian. It looks so poor.
Let me see. I can't really give anything, but oh well, there goes the camera.
Just try and find a cloud with minus.
Yeah, something like that. Well, instead we'll go get a picture of Beatrice instead. Here's Beatrice.
Forget Adrian. Just
Just forget Adrian.
Oh my god.
When did Beatrice form?
Beatrice.
That was at the very end
Beatrice.
of May, 31st.
It formed at the 31st of May and dissipated around the beginning of June.
Yep, there's another picture, another short-living storm. The first three storms of the East Pacific were real trash, weren't they, Craig?
Oh, it's even worse when you have the first hurricane. The first storm is supposed to become a hurricane.
Oh, it was it? Yes, they said that. They did say that.
They said that now.
Category 1.
Really?
Yes, they did. Category 1.
Marcel, any thoughts?
Yes.
What was
Yes,
that?
go ahead. I think it was Craig's saxophone. Oh, here's another one, by the way. This is Marutha, but Marcel, go ahead.
I think that cyclone was dead in the storm.
Which one?
Oh,
Which one are we
this-
talking about now? Are you talking about on the screen? I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the others first. But yes, this is Marutha. Which, what's going on with you?
Jesus, Daniel.
Oh god, this is hideous. No, it doesn't have any relation to this. It's
God.
something else.
Time and a place.
What on earth? This formed on the 15th of April, and it made landfall in Myanmar, Burma, late on the 16th, and moved inland. And like any storm in the Indian Ocean that makes landfall, it usually results in
A lot of flooding.
worst.
I think I get a picture of Adrian.
Oh, good.
Maybe.
Oh.
Maybe.
Wait a
Maybe.
minute.
That. Maybe.
There's a picture
Maybe.
of Adrian. How about that?
It's so bright.
Another
It's so
poor
bright.
picture.
I'm sure everyone loves that they can see that.
Just an awful looking storm again.
Yes.
So
Well,
how's
a lot-
Hurricane Adrian?
is that better?
We got it the first time, don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, there we go. Now that people can see it first instead of just a bright thing on the screen.
All right, well, moving to the West Pacific, in April we had a tropical storm Muifa, which formed, and we were worrying when the first tropical storm would form this year. Weren't we, Craig? Yeah, a little bit. There's a picture of it during one of Force 13's storm updates. There really wasn't much to it, was there?
No, there wasn't.
Yes, Daniel.
I'm just pulling back.
That's right. And that's pretty much it. There's just one more thing I wanted to show, and it happened at the very end of May. At the very end of May, Force 13 released its predictions, and it looked like this. The storm total predictions were released on May 26. Predicted 15 named storms in the Atlantic and Pacific, 8 hurricanes in the Atlantic, 10 in the East Pac, 4 majors in the Atlantic, 5 in the East Pac. What are your thoughts on that?
And that you did see an active South China Sea.
Yeah, well,
We'll get onto that. Daniel?
let me look. Zoom in on it.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's nearly an identical amount of
Yeah,
storms.
that's right. It didn't happen though.
Missing.
There were more in the East Pac as usual. How'd that happen, by the way? East Pac had a lame season by most accounts. Anyway, we predicted 25 named storms in the West Pac, 15 typhoons and 10 majors. And in the North Indian Ocean, 5 named storms and 2 hurricane-spent cyclones. So it didn't really do very well on the stronger storms of the West Pac and North Indian Ocean now.
Considering one of them ones would look at a super typhoon, but never mind.
Yeah.
So that's what the predictions said at the time. And as Craig was alluding to, these were the trouble spots in the Northern Hemisphere, what was expected this year, if I can get to look at it properly. So the red zones are much higher than normal risk, or were at the start of the year. The orange was higher than normal risk, the green was lower than normal, the blue was much lower than normal. As you can see, a lot of red areas out in the Western Atlantic. That wasn't particularly the hot spot this year. It was the Caribbean, which had a moderate there. It had neither high or lower than normal risk. Of course, lower than normal still means some risk, but just lower than normal. And then you can see the South China Sea there, lots of higher risk dots there into the Philippine Sea and the South and the East China Sea as well.
Daniel, god damn it.
What's Daniel doing? Daniel?
Well, I've got rid of it now. There's a picture.
Right.
I posted in the wrong.
Right.
Oh, is that what you? Oh, is that what
Might
that
not be a good
was?
time for that, Daniel.
Sorry.
But those were the Force 13's predictions. Anyone have any thoughts about predictions and how they went?
I don't know what to add.
Well, that's okay. That just means my job's a little bit easier. We can finish the this part of the tour throughout the through the storms of 2017, and there's a lot more to come towards the latter part of this week, of course. In tomorrow's episode, when you're able to see me, we'll be able to talk about all the storms that occurred between June and August, and the end of August, that is. So between the start of June and the end of August, and a hell of a lot happened in that time period. That's what we'll be talking about tomorrow. Stay tuned for that, and I hope you continue to enjoy Hurricane. I don't know what's so funny out there. Hope you continue to enjoy the rest of Hurricane Week, but
Craig.
people just can't seem to hold their laughter around here. I don't know what's going on. They've not even seen the blooper reel yet. How are they going to get through that? We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.
Don't forget to register your votes for the Viewers Top 10, which will be revealed on Saturday. Voting closes at midnight on Friday evening on Force 13's Hurricane Week page, showing you all the storms that you can vote for. And you're joining us live from Force 13 HQ. It's 1 minute past midnight at the time of broadcast, and we have a whole hour allotted to talk about a whole host of things to do with what we've just seen, and maybe what we're going to see later on in the week, who knows. Basically, it's viewer orientated. I'll let you have the reins, I suppose. Though it would be interesting to have a little discussion tonight about what perhaps the future of the Force 13 project should be and what our focuses should be in the future, but we can talk about a whole other matter of things as well. The conversation didn't stop last night, we ran out of time, so without further ado, let's bring in all of our members tonight on our team. Quite a lot actually are joining us. I'm joined by Daniel, Ram, Dane, Gabe, Craig, Cesar, and Hank. Somehow we got there. There was a noise in the background.
That was my
That was a cat, was it?
Oh,
I have
we have another guest there. So
we have another guest. He's not on. Sorry guys, he's not on the stream.
Good evening.
Yeah.
He's just gonna be joining me.
Good
Good
day to
evening.
everyone.
They're over there. I've got nothing to show right now because everyone is. Well, the odd thing about the window here is that unless someone shows their webcam on the stream, like so,
There it goes. Okay, sorry.
then I'm able to present the actual look elsewhere. So there is everyone right now. And
Alright.
first of all, let's prioritize the people who who weren't on here yesterday, at least as much. I don't know if Ram would like to speak first, actually. I don't know. Maybe not.
there seems to be
I
an
don't know.
issue
Just
with-
Lord, someone start talking.
It just crashed. So I just had to
Sorry?
reload it. So I've
Okay.
Craig, or not Craig. Sorry, Hank. Is your thing on?
Technical difficulties.
Am I on the call?
Yes, you
I'm
are
sorry.
here, Daniel. You do
All
exist.
right.
Yes, you are here. Well done. You are live.
I'm supposed to be talking.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
I'm just wondering if everyone could hear me
Yes.
right now. That's very
No, we
helpful.
can't hear you. You're
No?
muted.
Okay, that's a shame. Now, if you've got a question for us whilst we're on the air, I know we had a lot of questions last night. Keep them coming in tonight. We'll answer all of your questions that you posed to us about Hurricane Week, about the project, about anything in between. Let's talk to Cesar. Cesar, how are you this evening?
Oh yes, I'm very good to be back again. Of course, I'm tired because college and that stuff.
Who
but
isn't?
Let's move away from that. I don't want to think about it.
Actually,
Okay,
can we quickly answer two
I
questions?
feel
In a minute.
Okay.
I feel very good, and I'm very excited for watching more episodes for this tremendous week.
I bet you are, because in
Uh,
tomorrow's Hurricane Week, you're on the Super Cyclone Challenge.
Oh yes, I won't spoiler anything.
No,
but-
don't. Thank you.
But I'm just going to say that I did good. So
Good for you, Cesar.
You do better than last time?
I wouldn't say anything.
And
You're not going to say anything. You're just going to say, I did it, and there's to it.
Yep. Okay then. Well, let's get to the questions. Which one are we
Okay,
starting
so-
with?
Well, we're starting with what day is Force 13's top 10 going to be?
Which one? Oh, the Force 13's top 10. Okay, yeah, overall. That is going to be on Friday's Hurricane Week, day 5. Just to recap, yesterday was the top 10 deadliest storms. Today we've just covered the most intense. Tomorrow it's the costliest storms. Thursday is the top 10 strongest. There is a difference between strongest and most intense. Most people know, but if you don't, strongest is by wind speed, most intense is by pressure. Friday's Force 13's top 10, and then Saturday obviously is the viewers' top 10. It's there's been over 1,070 votes so far, and you could still sway the voting yourself. Sending your votes on the website. There are lots of other questions out there as well, aren't there?
Yes, next one is, how active do you think next year will be in the Atlantic? I think next year is La Nina. Here we go.
Oh, I'll let Hank answer that if he wants to.
Will be very brief, and I'm going to say it's too early, and I have no clue. So moving on.
There we are.
Someone
Basically.
wants to talk about the David floppy disk.
Before, for God's sake, already? Before
Yes.
Don't.
they did
You
as
go
well.
up
It's the
against
same
part 3
person as
incoming.
last night.
Just kidding.
It's the same person as last night. Before
Uh-huh.
we move on, I just wanted to see if anyone else had anything to say about next year's Atlantic Hurricane season, because people do want to know.
Oh. You know,
Oh, well, if
actually,
I were
really,
to take a guess
Just let
right
them-
now,
Yep.
well, if I were to take a guess right now, I would go slightly above average. I think I'm in the neighborhood of 60 named storms, though please do not shoot me for this if I am way wrong, because it is way too early to make a certain...
yeah, it is.
Though if I were to
Slightly
guess right
above
now, based off the patterns in what we're seeing in the models, that's what I
Yeah,
would guess.
yeah, we got it. What's your?
I need to get another one of those. I know I can't shoot you, but I can maybe punch you instead. 2 Christmases ago, I received a very inexpensive present. It was a sort of how would you describe it? Some of you remember it. That flip punching
Oh yeah.
glove, boxing glove that was quite funny. It sprung out and hit people. Anyway, moving
Okay,
on.
actually,
Go ahead.
actually, we have a very interesting question I
Okay, we
haven't
like that.
seen yet. Will Force 13 merchandise be released anytime soon?
No idea. If anyone's interested in that, we'd love to hear your suggestions. Anything's on the table.
And then someone wants to know
if Force
that.
13 ever gets some merchandise, then do
One
all
moment.
the team members get one?
Yeah, they should. They
Guys,
should.
one
They
at a
definitely should.
time.
Again, you have to ship it to my house, and I don't really
We
feel
could-
comfortable revealing around.
We could sell a pack of felt tips and call it Typhoon Tip.
Typhoon tips. That
Wasn't
would be
there a
fun.
Typhoon cup or something like
You know,
that?
Typhoon Copper, yes.
Yeah, sell a cup with it. I don't know.
And
Cup with Typhoon Copper on it.
for
So many
God's sake.
suggestions, so many ideas.
Which?
Let's just slow down here. Just want to take some other. What do you think? Tropic Striker says, "What do you think of me saying Arlene was 45 miles an hour?" I don't think much of it, to be honest. I think that's what we went with, was it? Or was it 50? It doesn't really make much
went with-
difference.
I'm going with 50. That's because scatterometer passes detected 50 miles per hour.
Yep. Okay. Megan says, "Talk about the 10 hurricanes in a row." Do they mean this season?
It means the 2017 Atlantic.
Yes, they mean
I'm not
that.
sure that happened. Did it, Hank?
No, it didn't, because Lee was 2 different storms.
Exactly.
That's what we were
Because who?
talking about last
Yeah.
night.
Then
He was
Which
2
kind
different
of-
storms,
We
folks.
consider Lee 1 and Lee 2.
2 Lees stopped
Harvey
it.
1 and Harvey 2.
Terrible.
exactly.
Yeah.
No,
There
it
would
was
be-
just Harvey 1.
There's just only one Harvey because it had the same. It was the same system the whole time. Lee split the 2 systems.
Yeah, Harvey was remnants, but Lee's had. It's like its circulation. Actually, I'll let Hank explain.
Lee
this.
just fell apart from this wind shear. And it-
Yeah.
It wasn't the wind. Well, yeah, Lee fell apart with the wind shear, but that's not the reason why it's named differently. It's named differently because a separate system
yeah, it formed.
became
It
different
formed a
tropical
different
cyclone.
circulation.
Let's make this one quick because.
Hold on,
you
I gotta
spent, like,
stop here
5
because
minutes
Daniel
or-
has interrupted with a laughing fit, and we need to talk about it. I think.
Well, you were suggesting the merchandise and stuff, and I suddenly thought about nose wallers as I was
What?
looking at pictures. And it just looks. Just look at this guy on this
No, I'm not
image.
going to look.
It's like an
Sorry,
elephant.
sorry. What? Oh, for God's sakes!
Imagine going outside wearing.
This is how it is, folks.
Maybe like blue for Force 13 or like red for Category 5.
We've got a question backlog. Will you do a what might have been for this year? I did say that yesterday. There will be a what might have been for this year in the Atlantic. That will be released at some point towards the late December. The actual 2017 hurricane season animation will be released by December the 4th if there are no storms active on that day. Which sucked worse, Philippe or Colin?
Yeah, some of that.
Great question.
Colin.
Colin.
No song
Yeah,
will
Colin.
surpass Colin. Colin just it wasn't
I'm actually-
even a,
Colin was barely an infest. Ish.
First they call him.
It didn't even have a
Colin
center.
was still
Didn't
worse than
even have
Philip.
much less it didn't even have a center.
All right, let's speed
I'm
through
seeing
these.
something in the comments right now.
Let's just
Right
speed
now, I'm
through these.
seeing.
I'm going to catch up, Hank. Can you make nowcasts again? Well, personally, I didn't make them. They were a product of Jason. I don't know if he'll be remaking them or not. I will be considering doing something along those lines in the future if we get the chance. Janine asked me if we're going to play the Atlantic Hurricane season of 2002. No, but if you'd like me to, I could, but I don't think there's really demand for that. What do you think of retirement choices for this season? We'll get onto that shortly. Hank, what did you see?
I saw a debate going on in the comment section about the intensity of Gert. I'm saying 110 because, I mean, that's what the Dvorak suggested higher, but the pressure for me suggested lower. That I don't think it really actually got to Cat 3 status. I know Nathan thinks differently, but that's just my opinion.
Just about got there, I think. Well, it's a close one. It's a contentious one and one that warrants debate. What is your opinion?
It was probably like 111 or 112 or something like that makes it borderline or whatever.
Who knows?
Oh, here's strat.
What is
yeah,
your,
111.
in a
It's
moment.
from 110, and then 111. Anything higher than 111 miles per hour is a major hurricane.
Right. What is your opinion on how strong Harvey was and cost? Well, you'll find out what our current analysis says tomorrow. We're waiting for more, I guess, validated data on that, which will arrive at some point, but who knows what the cost might end up being. I'll leave the number undisclosed for now.
Someone asked us if we think that Jose is a Cat 5. I say no.
We had this question yesterday.
Oh yeah, we did have this question. Some people actually, about half of us think yes and half of us think no. So it's a very debating question. I think yes.
I must introduce Strat at this point.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Late entrance as always. How's it going?
Yes, just like yesterday, Strat. Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Someone's just asked if you were going to be on the live stream. Well, he's here, guys.
I don't know. I don't know, viewers. You going to be on the live stream? We don't know this question. We don't know this answer.
It's
never
a
going to be on live
questionable
stream.
situation.
Surprised nobody's asked about me yet.
And everyone else. And Craig's sitting there looking very bored. I don't know if he wants to say anything.
Not really.
No. Oh dear.
You know one thing I haven't heard about recently is the South Pacific. It's just been quiet down there, hasn't it?
Well, I guess that we must touch on what is going on right now if you want to talk about that for a little while. In the South Indian Ocean.
I'll go through a quick synoptic rundown, I guess, if you want me to.
That's up to you.
Just go for it. That's up to you.
Alright, screen share. There we go. Let's see if I can get the...
Oh, okay. Well, we have a screen share. What a treat.
Let's see if we can get the correct overlays.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's a hiccup in the background. From Cesar.
Super real. Let's go.
Very good there, Cesar.
Yeah, sure.
Someone just told me that they found David's floppy disk.
Oh my god, no more.
I think there's an invest. There's a 91. There's a 95S. Do you think that's gonna go down and grab David's floppy disk for us?
What?
Oh no! No! Someone's found.
Oh boy, what's
It's like
the
we're
floppy
having
disk
comedy
thing?
hour early this week.
By the way, someone asked if we think next year's gonna be a La Nina or an El Nino. Someone take a shot at that.
No.
I'll give
It's
you
too early to
a second.
say, but-
Give me a second.
I don't think it'll be El Nino.
Anyways, this is what's going on with
Looks a bit of a mess right now down there.
yeah, a bit of a mess, you could say that. Interestingly, and well, actually, let me just really quickly just move up just a little bit. Where's the other invest? Is it this? Oh well, it's heard a lot.
Oh, I don't know which is which, to be honest.
I believe this is 96S, and I guess this is the remnants of the other one. I think I'm not sure. I saw it was in this area earlier today, so I'm guessing that's
Oh
where
gosh, it must have completely fizzled then.
Probably
Last time I
has.
saw it was quite a while ago, and it still looked pretty good. And well, if that's it now, it's completely gone. Is it on visible? It must be on visible by now.
Yeah, it's
Let me check.
okay.
Whilst you're looking up that, Frederick asks us, do you think my name should have stayed on the list? Obviously, Hurricane
No.
Frederick hit in 1979. No?
No.
Sort of still is, to be honest, in the form of Fred.
Actually, yes, Practically
just commented
similar
saying
name.
we
It's
should bring
the
back
same.
Pretty much.
And then
I-
someone said that Frederick hit their area.
Oh, come on.
All right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this is what's going on. So we have this
Frederick did
low.
in Alabama.
So we have this low right here.
Yep.
That's going to be tracking in this general direction. It's already showing pretty decent signs of organization. I can play the loop. We can see that it's doing some nice convection going, and it's developing some outflow channels out here. Now, you can also see that there is some beginning to form down here. So what you can do is you can akin this kind of, so here's the low, akin this kind of to this sort of a trough. And what this is going to do is it's going to move towards the southeast, and the remnants of whatever here are probably going to end up meandering in this area for like another day or two, and then probably get sucked in to whatever this becomes.
Now that's interesting, Hank, because the Bureau of Meteorology disagree with you. They think the storm's going to get very close to the coast of southern Java and become a cyclone just as it begins curving away in between Christmas Island and Java. I don't know if you can see Christmas Island on your map.
Interesting, because what I've seen is it moving just southeast, but okay. It's still got some ways to go. It's still stuck in a monsoon trough, which is in this general shape right here, because that's just how the actual wind motion is flowing. It's out of it's out of this direction here.
Oh,
God,
come
there's so
on.
many lines.
There's someone dying.
crowded.
There's someone dying over here.
We'll just so yeah, it could go anywhere really in this area, I guess. Big cone, but whatever. So that's basically it. I don't know if this will be named. I don't know what name it would get, but let's just leave it.
We're not well
Someone's
researched in
asking,
this area. Yeah, I'm going to
someone's
the
asking
questions
when
now,
the-
Strat. What do you think about the predictions for this year in the Atlantic? Now, whose predictions, I guess, is the question there.
What were our predictions?
Safe to say we all underestimated.
Well, Force 13, as you saw not long ago, predicted 15 named storms. I think it was 8 hurricanes and 4 majors.
I think
That was actually pretty similar to my
higher
prediction
than
this season.
17.
I think I had like 69 for something like that for this season.
Okay.
I think you remarked that once before, yes.
I
was
think
gonna
we had
double-check that.
somewhere. We have upwards of, according to Force 13's analysis anyway, around 7 majors in the Atlantic.
Golly gosh. Just want to run through these. Do you know where the Music Collection 2017 is going to be out? I guess you mean when. Well, that's... we're expecting it this week during Hurricane Week. I'm not entirely sure when yet. All I can tell you is it's not ready yet.
Hold on a second.
What do
I just went.
Go ahead.
through it. I just went through. I think if we do the 2 lees, then we had 18 named storms. I think we had 1 depression, 10 hurricanes, 7 majors. Then with those 13
All right.
analysis.
What do you
Let me
think?
see what I have as that for this season.
What do you think
so-
was the dumbest replacement name for any retired storm?
What about Rena for Rita? That's just too
I
similar.
think Rena.
Katya
Yes.
for Katrina.
What? Irene
Katrina.
from what did
No, I think Rena from Rita.
Rena
the
Rena for
dumbest
Rita?
replacement.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Just really, they just
I mean- They just changed 1 letter, and there are plenty of names with female names with R, and they chose Rena. Come
Is
on.
Rachel retired? I'm not gonna lie. That's the only other one I can think.
Rachel's using the Eastern Pacific.
Well,
Rebecca?
then change the spelling of Rachel. There's many different ways to spell it.
No.
Rochelle.
Well, they-
Rochelle.
lazy person.
Yeah.
We have names like
Spell it
Riley
differently.
or
Yeah,
Let's
I
yeah.
don't know.
There's a lot of names, but
but there
let's
are
not
plenty
go
of
there.
names with
Yeah,
R, and
let's-
they
I'm
chose
minded
Rena.
to Thar, and it's
Ooh,
kind of it's
hey.
fucking gender neutral.
Some viewers think Sean is coming in December. Thoughts?
No,
Well, near a guarantee.
I think we're gonna get towards Alpha again, if I do say so.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Honestly,
It's
honestly,
the
if you ask
29th of
me, we've
November.
already-
I mean, by our
Honestly,
logic,
if you ask me, we've already had Sean.
yeah, that's what I was gonna
Oh,
say.
yes.
By our logic, we would already have Sean.
I guess.
Why,
yeah,
though?
but
Can May
because
December
Two leaves.
2016, anyone?
two
Oh my God, it's the wrong year.
leaves.
Remember
Hank, you
last
just you
year,
said
I
you
was on
told
the
this you
Paula-
told this
December
yesterday.
Paula bandwagon
I
train.
know, but I'm not a huge fan at all of adding additional names. Because
Yeah,
I think that's
nor me.
wasn't confusing.
Um,
Anyways,
Here's an
I
odd
guess-
question. I just want to move things on. There's a lot of questions to go through here. How do you predict hurricane forecasting in about 100 years? I'm not sure if they're asking how they think hurricane forecasting will be then, or actually doing a forecast 100 years in advance. But if anyone wants to take up on...
you can't really do either.
Well, I'm only up to 2023 on HHW, so that might take another.
I mean, all you would hope for is that it's gonna be much
Years.
more accurate in 100 years.
Well, you would hope, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Atomic Bomb wants us to play Guess the Storm. No, we're doing that on Thursday.
We'll put an atomic bomb on that idea.
I know. We're doing
We're
that
doing
on
that
Thursday.
on when?
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Someone asked if they think we jinxed retiring names for Harvey and Maria in our 2011. What might have been?
No, because we never knew they were going to happen.
Well, jinxed it though.
But that's like saying.
Well, it's going to look a lot worse than the 2017 what might have been. So that'll have a knock-on effect on 2023, if anything.
Practically,
All right, accurately predicted, like in 2016, that Harvey would be a Category 4.
Don't take credit for it.
Huh?
Don't. Just
I
don't.
really shouldn't.
Just the luck of the draw.
Yeah. Someone asked what we thought major hurricanes were this year. Nathan.
I'm just reading through more comments. What?
Discord keeps.
You're asking what?
Someone asked.
signal.
I'm looking through the chat too. Someone asked what we thought the major hurricanes were this year.
My signal or whatever.
Well, let
I
me
know.
see.
Well,
I'm
if
trying
you
to
want to
think
go
through.
officially,
Gert-
I personally predicted a lot of major
Gert
hurricanes
got it.
this year.
Officially,
I predicted
Gert
5.
The storms that I think were major hurricanes this year: Gert, Harvey, Irma. I'm thinking of the names. Jose. Hope I don't miss any out. Lee, Maria, Ophelia. How many is that? Is that 7?
That's 6.
6.
If you're
7.
adding
7.
officially, there's only officially
What's Lee
there are
2?
only
2.
tropical storms.
Lee number 2.
Lee 2. Yeah.
Officially, there's only 6, but including Gert, there's 7.
All right.
Which would make it the most amount of major hurricanes since either 2005 or 1961. One of the two.
What name do you think should replace Harvey and Irma? Someone replied
Hank.
Hans and Izzy.
I would say Hank and probably
Of course.
I don't know, Ivory or Wonka, I don't know.
Someone has said they predict a category
We're just
6
running out of
hurricane
items at this
Isaac.
point.
Hold on a minute. What was that,
They
Strat?
predict a category 3 in the
Someone in chat has said they predict a category 6 Hurricane Isaac.
Well done.
I'm going to do the great liberty of putting that user in timeout.
Oh, really? Not nice, Strat. That's not nice.
And someone asked if there's ever been a
No.
Cat 5 in November.
Strat.
1932
Nice.
Cuba hurricane.
19.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually,
it's
here's
24
something
actually.
interesting. Wouldn't a category 6
there's only one.
be over? Now, this isn't even real, so just, you know.
I'm sorry. What are we talking about
But
now?
wouldn't I'm just explaining a category. What wouldn't a category 6 be over
Oh, no.
220 miles per hour?
No.
Oh,
Since it's
no.
exceeding
No,
theoretical
no,
potential.
No,
Not
no,
minusing
no.
sea surface temperatures. I'm just kidding, but still. Think
Yeah.
about that.
Talking about Category 6
Uh,
is about as useful as talking about Planet X. Let's move on.
Oh,
How can we... This is actually a
I
pretty...
gave it the shot.
I think this is a pretty serious question. How can we learn from 2017 prediction mistakes? is a question that's coming.
Actually, that's a pretty nice question. Finally, a nice one.
Finally, nothing
you're
about
not
Colin
easy,
and
please.
Felipe.
I think one of the big things again that they keep to help learn is to maybe I know a lot of major models underestimate the strength of like strong bridges ahead of time, so maybe they should add that into their forecasts.
Well, the
GFS
GFS didn't do so well this year, did it?
Yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of models.
It's
so
better
maybe
to
they should
overestimate
incorporate
than
that.
it is to underestimate. It's
Yeah.
better to overestimate than it is to underestimate.
In the long run, are you sure? Because you get
Well,
the cry wolf effect.
I mean, at first they like ahead of time showed Irma going out to sea, and we all know went towards Florida and stuff instead.
The GFS
That wasn't necessarily due to a strat. The thing is, that wasn't due to a stronger ridge. That was due to a second ridge. There's a difference.
The GFS model said that Irma would hit South Carolina as an 874 millibar Category 5.
Yeah, and I saw that and it just went.
Don't mention that, please.
Well, I just did.
Yeah, that's because they
even better when they mentioned
I'm
that
gonna die in Hurricane Irma
landfall
and be hit by an 874 millibar hurricane.
Right.
And then they said that it would make landfall around the 80 or 90 range in Miami.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it did say that, and that was actually a distinct possibility at one point. If Irma had stayed away from Cuba, it could have done that, hey?
It could have.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
it didn't.
let's actually. I think we do have some good points to take away from this season. There's been a silver lining with this season. That is that we've learned a lot about what hurricanes can do to land. If we haven't learned that, if Harvey didn't teach us that inland flooding is a really bad aspect of hurricanes, then I don't know what will teach us, because that was. You can't
disastrous.
Just say, "Oh, that was a one-off event." No, it's not. It's going to come more often now that these storms are becoming stronger due to the effects of climate change. These type of storms are going to become more frequent. Irma taught us that a storm could become this huge monster out of pretty much thin air, and could hit, and that models can shift around a little bit, because if you remember, initially it was supposed to hit the east coast of Florida and be basically a Matthew repeat. Then it shifted over to the west coast and became a completely different scenario. So,
don't you think a year like this may have been inevitable after such a quiet spell in the Atlantic in recent years, or lack of intense storms?
Well, I mean, this year just
something
had
that Strat talked about last year, or not last year, yesterday, and that's because remember 2013, it was a ridiculously quiet season. Then we had 2014, 15, 16, now 17. All that very quiet season just...
All right.
It just leaves the warm waters open for the taking, and as a result, we get stronger storms like.
We did get some in between, like
Irma and
Joaquin
Maria.
and Category 5 Matthew, of course. I think Ram wanted to say something just then.
I would actually.
Just a moment,
I would
Harry.
actually say
I don't know.
Okay, well, I would actually say that the fact that all of that warm water didn't do anything, I wouldn't say that it's something that went into making 2017 a bigger season, because all those seasons actually, 2014 and 2015 especially, kind of had cooler than normal water. 2013, 2016 kind of had the opposite. But the thing with those 3 years, especially the first three, was that the upper level pattern was just not conducive for any big storms. 2016 it was more conducive, but not as bad. It wasn't as detrimental. This year, rocket fuel. I mean, everything was ready for a huge year. And at first we thought, all this fuel is going to go to nothing because an El Nino could have formed. That clearly didn't happen. Now we have a La Nina in the Enzo region. And, that's another thing we can learn from, is that we can't trust the models with 100% certainty. The climate models, not necessarily like the GFS, the Euro, like short range. I'm talking about long range, like climate models. That sometimes, we still have a lot to learn. And that's something that we need to make sure that we're aware of when we're actually forecasting these storms and these events, because, as I said earlier, with case in point, Hurricane Irma, initially supposed to be East Coast, shifted to West Coast. People on the East Coast evacuated to the West Coast. They were in the line of fire. So we have plenty of room for error when it comes to forecasting these storms. Of course, we'll never be perfect, but we can certainly improve. And I feel that this year was a huge year of improvement, especially in the tropical cyclone forecasting department, because let's be honest, the track forecasts for Irma, Maria, Harvey are top notch. I mean, maybe the intensity forecast for Harvey wasn't the best, but the track was pretty spot on, even if the whole stalling thing wasn't really well. I can't really predict that.
Someone just said, why don't storms form often in the Caribbean during September? That's an odd question, because Gilbert happened once.
I have an answer for that.
Maybe the MDR is so favorable that it just doesn't get there before that it just doesn't not form all the way out there.
Kind of. What happens is you have all let's just say you have like an average or active year. You have all these hurricanes out in the open Atlantic. What they do is they pull air out of the Caribbean and into the Magellan region for them to use. And with the trade winds pulling air west, you get an area of divergence. And that causes suppression and does not allow convection to normally get going. Now, if a storm moves into the Caribbean from the MDR, then we have a different story. And then after the Cape Verde season shuts down, then all the energy that's building up in the upper atmosphere just comes right back, and then it flows down a lower level and then comes right back up as convection. And that's why October is more of a Caribbean, is where you watch the Caribbean more than you would in September.
What about November, though?
Well, like,
because we have the Cape Verde for August. We have the open Atlantic around for September, kind of Cape Verde, and then we have around the Caribbean for October. But what about November?
Yeah,
November's just a fallout, really.
Someone in chat just said that Harvey's the fastest hurricane in the world. Does anyone want to try to clarify that?
I couldn't understand your question.
I said someone in chat said that Harvey's the costliest hurricane in the world.
Well, it is technical because, well, I mean, it's just a model one, but I don't see any way how it couldn't after all of that flooding it did in Houston, the damage it did in the Rockport area, Port Aransas, side of Houston, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Lake Charles. They got hit pretty hard too. So I couldn't see how this thing wouldn't be the costliest hurricane in the world. Now, costliest natural disaster, you'll have to go to the 2011 Japanese earthquake and tsunami, as we mentioned last night.
Yes.
The actual natural disaster.
Yeah, if anyone didn't know or weren't here for yesterday, that is the costliest disaster at $360 billion.
Someone asked in chat why we think storms like Joaquin are retired and storms like Isaac aren't.
Because the World Meteorological Organization are...
Yes?
Bad word.
Isaac just kind of got overlooked by Sandy. Should I put it that way? It was just like overshadowed by it. Kind of similar to how English is being overshadowed by like the bigger three systems.
I don't think it was overshadowed. I think they just thought the damage wasn't enough really to warrant retirement, because really a lot of people kind of just forgot about it. Because I was talking to I remember like around the time of Sandy, like our friends from New Orleans called me. It's like, hey, what's going on? And I said, well, I explained it to them, and I also asked, oh yeah, how is the damage from Isaac going on? And there's like, what was Isaac? Right. I don't know how, but they did. So I guess, it's just kind of out of people's minds, really. And it wasn't like a big storm or anything.
Going back there again to Joaquin, the only thing I'm going to say is that I'm glad that he was retired, because the name is just awful and ugly. So...
If anyone's named Joaquin in the comments section right now, it's time for you to be heard. Talk to Cesar.
Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Just I don't like it. It's so bad.
Well, I don't know. Actually, for Hurricane Isaac, Truly,
Miami.
I have to go back and look at that. Actually, over $2 billion and 34 fatalities. It's not just about the damage. I mean, there can be. It's like how much it affects an area. It's like how you take a look at Hurricane Stan. Stan, yes, it caused over almost up to 2,000 fatalities and around almost 4 billion, but the main reason why it was retired is because it completely obliterated a town in the place that around the place where landslides just took it all out. And it's not just about cost and fatalities, it's also about how it affects a community.
Someone in chat asked, will Ophelia or Nate be retired? I think we discussed that last night.
I think Nate, I think will. Ophelia, I think will not.
Ophelia, I think, has a chance, but actually,
Please.
I ultimately, I don't think it will be.
The issue with Ophelia is that it caused damage to storms that aren't on the committee or retiring Atlantic storm.
They are. Ireland and the United Kingdom are on the committee.
So,
I'm pretty sure they're not.
how much damage did Ophelia cause again? It was hard to do. It was around 1 billion, wasn't it?
Yeah, just over that.
Just over, like 1.18 or something. No, yeah, 1.18 or something like that. But that's just what Wikipedia says. But I don't really trust Wikipedia. Sometimes they're just flat out wrong.
Someone's just asked about the Tango incident again. Excellent.
Oh boy.
Force 13, were you on the Tango
Oh,
incident? Force 13.
You know, what can you do?
Saying Michael's live stream.
Is the name Tip retired due to it being the most biggest hurricane on Earth on record? Well, no, it
well,
wasn't.
first of all,
actually.
it's Typhoon, and second of all, no.
Yeah,
and
little
if you
point,
look
yeah.
at it, it was the name was still used after 1979, so no, it was not retired.
It wasn't retired, but it should have been retired just because it was a record storm in many reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and it killed a bunch of people as well, 111. So it was kind of bad as well.
Well, it's like
And they haven't
when you.
retired.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like
By Westpac standards, it's quite low though.
actually, when you think about Tip, you can kind of not much in damage and fatalities, but really in intensity standards. If you take a look at it, if the name Patricia was to be reused again, people were gonna be people who were affected by it and are expecting that to happen. It's not gonna happen, but it might. It looks well. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but it's like it's the same reason why you don't reuse, but the purpose of we all know the purpose of retirement, but it's just like you don't reuse a storm that's so historic.
Right.
You don't like, for example, you don't reuse Katrina.
We have 20
And
minutes
that's
to
a very
run.
obvious reason.
What do you guys think of Force 13's reanalysis of Typhoon Tip and how we think it's slightly below 870 millibars based on the fact that the satellite presentation looked better several hours after the recon flight got the 870 millibar reading?
I think it's accurate.
Makes sense.
It would suggest somewhere
Yes.
between 865 and 870. We've gone with 868 for the time being, pending full and proper analysis.
Asking a question with a large screen text saying, can you explain how Harvey made so many tornadoes in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and why did it make a long track tornado in Pickens County, Alabama?
Very specific question.
Planes.
It's
I can go ahead and answer you that question, and it's going to be very simple because of the Plains region. You get that area between the Rocky Mountains and the Gulf of Mexico. That's what generally is the same thing that makes Tornado Alley happen or not happen.
That's where
That's the
80%
same reason
of the
why
tornadoes in the world
tornadoes happen on Earth, and that's just because of that simple hot spot. And if you actually, I think I'll go ahead and let Hank explain this because I think he's eager to explain this. What happens actually when I want to let the viewers know Hank, or want you to let Hank to let the viewers know what happens when a tropical cyclone runs into the hot spot.
Well, it's not really the hot spot that causes it. It's just if the storm has enough upper level rotation within it, then it could, if it starts to have friction with the land, then
you get that rotation in the air, and then
it can start dropping some funnel clouds and hence tornadoes.
Mhm.
They're normally pretty weak and short-lived, but they can happen.
They can happen.
Strat.
That's the thing.
Yes.
You better stop right there.
Oh no!
Don't do it.
Strat.
Don't do it.
Strat. Don't you
No.
dare!
Let's talk about something else.
Though it's a bit late.
We've got about just over 15 minutes, and I'm eager to talk a little bit about how well you think Force 13 performed this year and what we should be focusing on more in the next year. And I'd like this to sort of be a discussion between ourselves and with the viewers and what they would like to see on the project in the next 12 months as well.
So I want to say one more thing though before you guys
Go ahead.
talk about that, and that's that this isn't really about the viewers, but I'd like to note that I think the Typhoon Tip, I think that's a lot more accurate than it was previous, or it's a bit more accurate than it was before. And another thing I think we can do is we can get, well, the team helps obviously, but sometimes, well, it's a little bit difficult to explain, so I'm going to go ahead and I want the rest of the team to talk about it. If
I
you
guess
don't mind.
first, I'm just gonna get my thoughts out of the way early. I think that this year is probably our best year yet. I think for the future that we should continue focusing on optimization with live streams and videos to put out constant content for the viewers. I know the channel has been growing a lot. We more than doubled our views from the previous year, and I think we should continue building on that.
I think we've done more than double our...
Yeah, I know we did more than double. We got over 2 million views this year, right, Nathan?
Something like that. You tell me.
2 million. Wait a minute. Actually, I can tell you the answer to this right now.
Yeah, it'd be something like 2.2 million.
We're also now at 9.1k subs.
Yeah.
1.9.
But numbers are well and good, but we want to actually. I want to hear ideas about what to actually do, what should be, what we should change coming into the next year with either the videos or any new features to launch or any old features to bring back. So just throwing that out there.
The easiest things to do is continue optimizing video content and content. That way we can put out that stuff more often and continue to have it and improving quality as well. How to do that specifically would probably take, me going on a tangent for over an hour. But that's the generalization of it.
Do that after the show.
Any other one else?
Actually, I want to go ahead and I want to say one thing, and that's that according to Force 13's YouTube page, there is 4,976,942 views.
That's outdated.
That's because it doesn't factor in 246,000 from a Hurricane Matthew stream in 2016.
Not just that, it's also outdated.
However, if you do want to talk more about the future of the project, there is a Facebook page for this. Search up the Force 13 Development Committee, and that's where we have a little chat about what's going on there. And not much has been happening on there yet, but if you want to join that, you're more than welcome.
I don't know the last time I got a message from it or the last time I actually checked Facebook.
Yeah, it's because I've been working on Hurricane Week the whole time. Anyway,
yeah, I will link it in the chat right now.
Thank you very much for that.
What's it going to be like after... supposed to like anything new after Hurricane Week, or no?
There's going to be a lot of things new after Hurricane Week, yes. December's going to be another busy month for us. We're going to be mainly working on the website, because that's been sorely lacking for a very long time. We are aware.
I know we've been...
we are bringing in
stuff is up
a
now,
new automated service on the website, where actually it's going to be basically a dual feature, the automated service, and also next to it we will have the The members will hopefully be able to do blogging on there at last.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, what? I'm sorry, what?
That'll be cool.
Yes, our members will hopefully be able to do that and talk about
Do
hurricanes
blogging
and more.
where?
Also,
On the website.
The new SATOP
Oh.
system's in the works as well,
The
right?
new setup system's in the works. It's
Yeah,
going
what
to be
is it,
called
SATID?
SATID, S-A-T-I-E-D. And that is going to scrutinize storms even more closely than the SATOPS analysis to even better determine the intensity of storms as we enter 2018. Daniel, did you want to say something then?
I was just going to say, it sounds like Force 13 blogs or something that was discussed in the past.
That's on the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What was the strongest storm you ever tracked as it was happening? I mean, I don't know if you guys have different answers, but for me it was... Well, it depends what you mean by that, to be honest. Certainly one that always sticks out to me
Patricia.
is Typhoon Haiyan. I was going on vacation during Patricia.
Kind of.
I mean,
Yeah, my strongest cover was Irma, actually, so that's fine.
Actually, my strongest cover of any storm was actually the first. This is a little story. This is the first time I actually began tracking a storm, and what do you know? Was on the strongest storm on this earth. It was Hurricane Patricia of 2015. Anyway,
I remember Patricia well.
yeah, I just remember it going up and then going down. It just like ramping up in intensity.
yeah.
No, it was around. Kind of not, but then I ended up actually experiencing the remnants of the storm itself, of this gigantic, almost 600-mile wide reminiscent of a storm. The depression dissipated, but it still caused a lot of damage in Texas, and I've never seen. Yeah, it just like caused by my place. It caused a lot of heavy flooding rains, and it caused almost 35-mile-per-hour winds.
Janine asked me if I've ever been to Canada yet. No, I haven't.
Someone's just asking a question.
Have you ever been to Kentucky, Nathan?
No, I haven't. If anyone wants me to go to Canada or Kentucky with the Force 13 Roadshow, send in the petition.
Yeah, someone asked me that. I think we can all go around and answer this. Someone asked when
Visit North Carolina. We actually get hurricanes. Just kidding.
Maybe we should all just take a break and go all meet up and we'll all go on vacation somewhere. We'll go to Kentucky, we'll go to Canada, we'll go to Australia,
We gotta.
everywhere.
Yeah, someone asked.
I think the problem is that like 90% of us are under 18. I think that's the problem.
So we only need one person above 18 to check in the hotel rooms?
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
I don't think anybody would allow it.
If I told him,
how many people's parents do you think would allow that?
Can I go to like a vacation, like another state with this 23-year-old from the UK that you've never met?
Looks like we've got the kids club here. Well, at least me and Daniel are of age.
Someone asked for me to go tracking hurricanes. Do people want to go around and answer that?
That weird hybrid thing between a child and an adult.
I see.
Yeah, does everyone want to go around and say what year they started tracking storms in? Someone asked that in the chat.
Oh, right.
I first remember looking at the NHC in 2011. The first season that I truly tracked and followed storms was 2013.
2012, my first year. Wow, everyone's
funny
very
story.
into this question.
I started tracking right as Sandy dissipated, and just hearing about Sandy made me like, oh wow, I should track hurricanes. And then no storm for the rest of 2012, so I had to wait until 2013. I didn't know any other basin existed before then.
My first storm was...
Don't worry. And then you had to wait like the whole quietest season in the Atlantic, except for the fact that the Western Pacific was active.
My first storm was Hurricane Bill of 2009.
Oh boy, someone mentioned the tango incident.
Not again. Anyway, more questions.
How many people are
people are that into it, I will provide a link to the video that is in the chat right now. Link to the tango incident.
One time. We are running out of time.
No, don't post that.
Don't post it.
It's too late, it's already there.
We are running out of time. What was the purpose of the pick one storm of your own section on the voting form? Well, I sort of put that there to offer everyone the choice of a wild card there to see if they wanted to vote it something else, and a lot of people have utilised it so far.
I
As a
totally
matter
didn't
of
put in Joaquin.
fact, There are over
I forgot what I
100.
put.
There are over 100 different storms that people have voted for so far, out of the 1,070 something votes. Let's see.
Different storms?
Yeah, 100 different storms have been voted for so far.
I will.
Oh,
not
did you see the
lie.
Discord page? Did you see the Discord page? One of them.
Yeah, don't look at my
Speaking of
post.
which,
I totally didn't put in Joaquin as my storm by choice.
I'm certainly not going there. No, not going near it. People are asking our
I legitimately
opinions.
forgot what I put in.
now
On-
everyone's gonna start choosing. Oh no.
People are asking
I'm
the opinions
sorry.
on the 3 Cat 4s at the same time in the Pacific in 2015. That was rather interesting. It was almost matched in 2016, but they weren't quite as good that year.
We had-
I've been asked if I've been to North Carolina. No, I've only been to Florida and technically New York, but not quite.
What about Mexico? You've been to Mexico,
Yes,
right?
Carolina's fun.
last year.
Just kidding, it's really not.
Central America, and you've been to everywhere. Why are we asking you about where
actually,
places you've gone?
guys,
Wait, Cat Force is the
Southeast,
same.
this is a kind of.
I haven't quite been in a hurricane yet. We almost got hurricane.
Nathan,
Over.
I think you'd be keen to answer this. I'm
Oh,
sorry
you
to
were
interrupt.
in
Everyone's
Yeah.
talking at the same time
Yeah,
here.
but-
Someone's going to
I
have
just
to.
have something quick to say. Someone,
Everyone, one at a time.
And that
someone
laugh.
said in
Say.
Strat
chat.
first, please.
Someone said in chat that they followed us since 2015. Would love to become part of the team. How do you become part of the team?
Send a message to Fool13 at extension 9094 on Discord or add Force13 on Skype. You can also send us a message on any of our social mediums, Facebook and Twitter. Daniel, did you want to say something now?
I was just going to say you've been to almost every continent in the world
No.
apart from Australia. Is Australia? Yeah, it's Australia and
Yes.
Antarctica and Asia.
And South America.
And South
Sorry.
America.
Sorry, I'll go
Africa.
visit.
I've not
Wait,
properly
I'll-
been to. I was sort of in Africa this year. I was in the
Oh,
Cape
yeah.
Verde Islands, but
Yeah.
that is technically Africa, but not actually been on the
Do
continent.
you ever consider going to Antarctica?
No, it's too far too cold for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should go.
Yeah, Britain's. Wait a minute.
It's not very fun.
Do you think you fit in with the
plus, like,
penguins?
don't they only allow like
I could.
like
I
a
might
couple
do.
scientists to go to Antarctica or whatever?
Well, you just got to get your own private plane and just go to Antarctica and say, I was on this Earth right here.
There was a recently a
What's the
marathon
point
in Antarctica. Actually,
What's
There's
the
a
point in
recent
going to
marathon.
Antarctica for any reason at all?
Baroque.
Just saying you went to Antarctica one time.
Completely. Oh, great.
Oh,
Well,
That
what
one
do you
time,
want? A medal?
That one time you
I
went to
kinda have
Antarctica
my
and then
own
you went to
question.
Australia.
We can-
Hold on a minute.
Oh, so I kind of have my own question.
Dane, go ahead.
So I read this article the other day about this guy who allegedly wants to fly in a homemade rocket 1,800 feet up into the air to try to prove that the Earth is flat. So what do we think about flat earthers?
Oh my god.
Oh,
no.
Poison. Papa
Why are you asking me?
Dane, no, okay. I don't think that's something we.
This is why we don't read those articles.
No.
Nathan, what does your father have to say about that?
I've no idea.
Is that your
Ask him.
father? Is Kenneth?
What?
Is that Ken? No, there was like a rumor yesterday saying like your father was Kenneth or something, and I just laughed
No.
at that.
Kenneth.
I know he's not, but I just
Kenneth.
went.
No,
Who?
not
I
Kenneth.
just went. What? I just. It gave me.
Someone
I
has
thought it
just
was pretty
said,
funny.
do you know there's a London in Canada? Yes, I'm quite aware. It's in Ontario.
There's a London in
There's
London. It's
also
called
a
the City of
London in
London.
Kentucky, Nathan.
Great.
place called-
There's plenty of
You can belong
Manchesters in
to
America
London.
as well.
There's a place called Cabbage Town.
Maybe you
Somebody
belong
asked,
know.
what if there were no hurricanes?
One at a time. One at a time.
Daniel
maybe you should go to
first,
all
please.
the Londons in the world, Nathan.
No,
Maybe
Daniel
you should go
first,
to all the
please.
Londons in the
I was
world.
I was just saying there's a place in Canada called Cabbage Town.
Great.
Quite-
Ram, what about you? What were you saying just there?
Somebody by the name of W.D. Gaster said, what if there was no hurricanes? Well, the world would be a better place, but we'd all be out of our job.
I guess. Do you think Hurricane Hermine was a good-looking storm?
Someone's been asking
No.
that for 15 minutes. I feel bad.
Actually, there's like an image of Hermine around it. It looked. I think it looked decent, but not good. But I've seen better. But I think it looked pretty decent for a Category 1.
The most disappointing hurricane strength storm in recent memory. Huh. What an interesting question.
I think I know what they're going for. Who?
I don't know what comes to mind. I mean, I was actually looking at one today, Hurricane Earl of 98. That was a terrible hurricane.
Definitely.
Certainly in the looks department. That's the only one I can offer right now. Is that someone's cat? We started with a cat.
Yes,
Looks like
that's
we're
my
ending
cat.
with one because we're just about finished. No, it's not Gaston. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll probably have
you're
Gaston
gonna
in
hear
comedy
that.
hour, but this seems to have been another one of those.
Sorry guys, I can't really do anything.
Why you don't have a cat?
Guys, sorry, I can't really do anything about it. I could yell at it, but that's not gonna do
All right. Let's see if we can get some
I could let my dog in here.
closing comments from people who've not spoken as much. Cesar, anything you'd like to say before we wrap up here?
Not really.
Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping you had
Well, I
something.
don't know. Depends of what do you want to me to say, or what is the question. I don't know.
Say
I
something.
was just wondering if you wanted to say it, that's all.
Well, I don't know.
Are you excited about watching your Super Cyclone Challenge tomorrow night?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really,
that's a
but
bit of a
I
problem.
hope. Well, not for me, but I hope people tomorrow liked it.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
So just let's see what happens tomorrow. But just don't miss the Hurricane Week Day 3. Please don't miss it. Because I will be
That's
there.
my line.
No, it's
Make
mine
sure
now.
to leave a like and subscribe to the content.
Oh, Cesar, you thief.
Just advertising myself a little bit.
No, it's good. It's
Yeah,
good.
that's what I do.
Yeah, you do that plenty. Thank you very much.
Not really, but thank you for your opinion.
No, not you. I was talking about Strat. Okay, well, we've reached the
okay.
end. Oh, just
Okay.
That's the end of our coverage tonight of Hurricane Week Day 2. It's been yet another farce, a farce a day at the moment, and we've got about 5 more coming up after today. Day 3 tomorrow, we're starting the same time, same place, 11 PM UTC is the time we start. We'll probably be finishing at around 1 as the cat goes in the background there. Thanks all for joining us this evening on the team tonight. Thanks all for watching. I faded them down just to give us a bit of peace and quiet. Tomorrow we're talking about the top 10 costliest storms in history, and that's going to be an interesting watch. We'll also have the Super Cyclone Challenge and part 3 of the storm summaries, which will be covering June to August. So it's going to be a very good one tomorrow night. Make sure you don't miss it. Starts at 11 UTC, that's 6 PM Eastern Time. Until then, good night from me, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.